Hi there, my name is Shauna Alvarez and I am the executive chef here at America's Grower, and we are going to be working on February's ComMITT Kit together today. So today we're making burgers, which is, always a favorite in my house, and we're going to put a little spin on it this month by using ground turkey instead of ground beef, to try a lean protein, and we're going to hide some vegetables in the burger. So today we're going to use zucchini and carrots. Zucchini because it's my favorite vegetable to shred into almost anything, and carrots because most kids like carrots and they're nice and sweet. The vegetables are going to do a few things for the burgers. They're going to increase the nutrition. So we're going to get some more vitamin A, some more fiber, which is always good. But from a culinary perspective, they're also going to add moisture to ground turkey, which can be a little lean, which is good for our health, but not always good for keeping things staying together. And they are also going to add bulk to the mixture. So from 1 pound of ground turkey, if you add a few vegetables, you can usually get a couple more burgers out of them, which is something I really like too. So I love any recipe that sort of stretches our nutrition and also stretches the quantity of food that we're going to get out of what we would usually buy at the grocery store or get at the pantry or the farmer's market. So we're going to start off by preparing our vegetables for the meat mixture. Today that's, like I said, is zucchini and carrot, and we're going to do an onion as well. So we're going to dice the onion very small, and then we're going to shred the zucchini and the carrot on the side of the box grater. That's what I have. If you don't have a box grater, you can just cut it as small as you can, or if you have a food processor, you can put it in the food processor as well. So I'm going to start by shredding everything. And I'm going to put it into this big bowl. So I like using a really big bowl when I'm shredding because I can just put the grater right into the bottom of the bowl and shred it. Zucchini shreds very quickly. You can use any side of the box grater that you want. I like to use the big side because it just makes faster work of it. And this zucchini has so much water in it, and when we cook it, it's going to shrink down considerably. This is a good job to have one of your kids help you with, but just let them know that the side of a box grater is pretty straight. So when they get closer to the sharp side, maybe the grown-up can take over, or you can dissect the rest of it on the cutting board. It really hurts to grate your knuckles, speaking from experience. So we're going to do the zucchini and the carrots just like this. Other vegetables that you can put in are sweet potatoes, which today we're going to make into fries. The sweet potatoes are really good. Regular potatoes are good to add into something like this. Mushrooms are like the classic choice because they kind of have that meatiness to them. So if you're going to do mushrooms, instead of grating them, I would just try to chop them as finely as possible, or if you do have a food processor, it's a really good time to use that. And always make sure you reach up on the inside and the bottom, and you'll usually get quite a bit more of the vegetable. Okay, so a box grater, we're done with that for today. I'm going to put that here, and then we are going to just dice an onion. And when you dice an onion, it just means you're going to get it as small as possible. We've diced onions before in this program, but I'm just going to do it a little bit up close so you can see how I do it. So you're going to cut, there's two ends of the onion when you're looking at it. There's the root end, that's where it was pointing down into the soil, and this is where the plant was growing out. You want to keep the root end together when you start to dice because it makes it easier when it stays together. So you're going to cut it in half. And you'll see here, this is the root end. I'm keeping the skin on for a minute so you can really see it. And then you're gonna peel the onion skin off, and people do that in a bunch of different ways. I do it like this because I have a lot of practice. I can use the edge of a knife, but if you're not familiar with that or you're not comfortable, you can just use your fingers, which is a good job for kids if they're willing to put up with, the slightly stinging eyes. So we're gonna take the peels off. You want to try your best just to get the skin part off and leave as much flesh behind so that you have that in your burgers and not in the garbage. Okay, so you'll see here that the root is still attached to this. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna take our knife and we're gonna go this way and we're gonna cut all the way through, except we're not gonna touch here. So you're gonna go through this way and then you're gonna come through this way. And what's gonna happen is this is gonna hold the onion together for you, so it's not sliding all over the place. And after you have finished dicing it, you'll have little tiny pieces. It's a little bit easier. And then, because I don't like to waste anything, I go around the root so we get all of that onion. Okay, so we're gonna dice an onion, and that's gonna go into the pan with the carrots and the zucchini. Okay, so we have nice clean sweet potatoes, and you can do this with, the way I'm gonna show you how to cut the sweet potatoes, exactly how you could cut any potato. I think you have 2 kinds in your meal kit this month. So I'm gonna cut these so they're kind of like steak fries or wedge fries. And to do that, I'm gonna cut them in half. If it's really rocky, you can hold it on both sides and put your knife all the way through. You wanna try to get to a flat side as soon as possible when you're cutting anything round. It just makes it more stable. And then I'm just gonna go through and I'm gonna do my bear claws. I'm gonna hold the potato like this, and I'm just going to kind of cut strips. And I'm gonna leave the skin on today. I almost always leave the skin on my potatoes because it's one less step, but also there's a lot of good nutrition in the skin that I like a lot, and it helps. If the potato is very sweet, when this roasts, it gets kind of very, very soft, and the skin kind of keeps it all together. So I'm gonna go through and cut them into pretty big wedges, you'll see. The thing is that they're all roughly the same thickness, and that is important because that means they'll all cook at roughly the same amount of time. So this is how this one looks. It's pretty easy. If you wanted to make them even closer to French fries, even thinner, you could, I'm gonna do it like this, so it's a little, you're gonna do something very similar. So these are kind of the same as what we have in the other group, but then I'm gonna turn them, I cut them this way first, and then I'm gonna turn them on their side, and I'm gonna cut through like this. And so you'll see now they're thinner, and they're more shaped like French fries. It's totally up to you. The thinner you cut them, the more pieces you have to spread out amongst your family. So if people are trying roasted sweet potatoes for the first time, that may be nice. And then you can always just cut them into chunks if that's easier for you. It doesn't have to be in the shape of a French fry. But whatever you do, just pick cut all of your potatoes the same shape or size. So I'm gonna cut up this one, this other potato, kind of like the first ones I did, like a wedge. Okay, so we have our potatoes all cut up. I cut into wedges. And what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna pile them all in the middle of my sheet pan. And I'm gonna take a little bit of oil. The oil does a couple things. It helps to the potatoes from sticking on the foil. It also helps the spices stick to the sweet potatoes so that they stay on the potatoes and not on your foil, which is very helpful. I put just about a tablespoon of oil. You can put a little bit less. You can also use the spray like Pam or like the spray canola oil if that is what you prefer. So you'll see on your recipe that's in your kit that I offered a few different suggestions of spices, and I used the spices that you got early on in the program for different combinations. So I'm gonna do my favorite spice combination for sweet potatoes. I'm gonna put salt, and then I'm gonna put a little bit of garlic powder. Sweet potatoes can really handle really strong flavors. It's the sweetness likes to contrast against spicy or smoky or even acidic. I'm gonna use black pepper today because my kids are gonna eat these, but if it was just for me, I would use like a really fiery chili powder. It's gonna be really spicy. Black pepper. And then my favorite combo with sweet potatoes is cumin. I really love the way this sort of smoky, slightly acidic flavor goes with the sweetness. So I have them all together, and I'm gonna use my hands. They're very clean. I'm gonna mix them up so the spices are pretty evenly distributed. And then, as much as possible, I'm gonna kind of lay them out so they all have their own little area. You don't wanna crowd them too much. If there's some overlap, it's not that big a deal, but you don't want like a big pile of potatoes because then they're just gonna steam. As all of the moisture is released, it's just going to sort of steam the potatoes instead of letting them get kind of crispy and delicious. So these are going to go into an oven. I have, my oven is at about 400. Anywhere between 375 and 425 is good heat for roasting. If you're a little intimidated, the lower temperature is totally fine. It'll just take a little bit longer. So these are gonna go in the oven, and they're probably I'm gonna check them after about 10 minutes and see where they are. I'll flip them part of the way through and then pull them out when they're done. Okay, so we're gonna take our vegetable mixture, and then we've got the shredded zucchini, the shredded carrots, and the onions. We're gonna put it into this pan. I'm using a non-stick pan today. I'm gonna use the same pan that I'm using here to cook the burgers in, and that's just because I don't like doing dishes. But that's why I'm using a non-stick pan for this step. So when I cook the burgers, it's just a little bit easier. Use whatever pan you have, whatever pan you're comfortable with. And if you have a smaller pan, you might just have to do it in batches, but that's totally fine as well. So I'm gonna put a little bit of oil. This is almost done. It's probably just about a tablespoon. I'm gonna put this over medium heat on my stove, and I'm gonna saute it, which just means cooking over high heat while I'm moving it for about 3 or 4 minutes until the vegetables have released a lot of their moisture and they're soft and the onions are kind of clear. And I'm gonna add a little bit of salt because salt actually helps that process along. It helps the vegetables sort of release their water or give up their water, and it helps them to taste good. And when you're cooking, you want to kind of build layers of flavor along the way. I'm gonna put this over here. So we're cooking, we're over on the stove, and you can hear it sizzling. That means the oil's gotten hot, and in about 5 minutes, this will all be nice and soft and tender. Okay, you'll see here now that the steam is coming out of the vegetables, and if you look closely, the zucchini has turned an even brighter green. That means everything's going exactly how we want it to go. It's getting softer. We're just gonna give it a few more minutes. The reason we're doing this, you could add these vegetables to the meat mixture not cooked. It would be fine, but there would be a lot of moisture that would have to escape when they were cooking, which would make them a little bit more crumbly. So by pre-cooking this, we're making sure that the burgers stay together a little bit better, and we're adding sort of like a little bit more flavor because the vegetables are cooked, making the carrots a little bit sweeter, the onion a little sweeter. So you're putting the most flavorful version of the vegetables into the burgers, which is always a good thing. So our vegetables are all done. You can see they're a little softer, they're clear, they're moving around the pan really easily. They don't really have any color on them at all. We weren't trying to brown them, we're just trying to get some of the moisture out. And you can see the steam still coming out. So we don't want to put hot vegetables onto raw meat because it will start the meat cooking before we're ready for that to happen. So I'm just gonna put this off to the side to let it cool for a little bit, and then we're gonna season our meat and then mix the vegetables in. So I have 1 pound of ground turkey in here. You'll see it's the same bowl I grated the vegetables into. Once again, I don't like to do dishes. And there's still a little bit of vegetable in here, so you might as well go into your burgers. So we're going to add a bunch of the vegetables in here once they cool down, but before that we're gonna season it. So I have clean hands. I'm gonna take off my wedding ring because meat can get underneath there and it can get kind of gross. So clean hands, no jewelry. And then we're gonna do a very basic seasoning today. So I'm just gonna do salt, and garlic powder and pepper. But you can add whatever you normally add to burgers. The one trick we're gonna do today is we're gonna add about a tablespoon of ketchup to the burger. This is because the ketchup is going to sort of act like a very light kind of glue or a binder, helping to bring it together, and it's gonna add a flavor, a tanginess and sweetness. And it's gonna add something called umami, which is a fancy Japanese word for savoriness. Tomatoes, beef, mushrooms, they all have high amounts of umami. We really like to eat things that have that flavor. Beef naturally has that flavor, so this tomato in the ketchup is gonna add a little bit of that to this turkey burger. So it's about a tablespoon. And I'm gonna use my hands. Hands are your best tool. That's what we learn in culinary school. They're clean and they're gentle. They're a little gentler. If you're not comfortable using your hands, you can use a spoon, a big spoon. So all I'm gonna do is I'm just going to kind of mush the ketchup and the seasonings into here. Make sure they're evenly distributed. And when you're working with raw meat or like when you're doing anything that has like wet ingredients and dry ingredients and you're using your hand, always keep one of your hands clean and dry and separate so that you can use that to grab things. So I only have my right hand in here, and that's gonna come in handy in a minute because I am going to grab my vegetables. I'm going to put them in the mixture. So they're a little hot. I've put them off to the side. It's a big bowl, so I have enough space to do that. And I'm just going to gently mix the two together. And then we're going to form these into patties, and we're going to put them in the fridge to chill. Up to an hour. So these burgers can be made right away. You don't have to chill them, but chilling them does help them cook a little bit evenly. And you can do this even the night before or in the morning. This is the kind of thing that I would do in the morning before starting my work day and virtual school day for the kids. And then they're just ready to go at dinner time. And then another really important thing that I wanted to point out is that this idea of adding vegetables into ground meat and making burgers can be used for meatballs or for meatloaf. I actually had a hard time picking this month what we were gonna do because I knew I wanted to do this technique, but I wasn't sure how to do it. So my kids voted burgers, so we're doing burgers because they're gonna eat this when I'm done. I'm gonna take this home for them. So you'll see here, I'll put the spoon off to the side. This mixture is all mixed together. And it added like quite a bit of bulk to this 1 pound of meat. So instead of getting 4 burgers out of this, I should be able to, it looks, to get about 6 or even more. And if these were meatballs, you could get a couple dozen small meatballs out of this or 1 big meatloaf. So once you get it to this point, you can choose how you use it. You can shape it into burgers like we're going to today, make it into meatballs to serve with pasta, or shape it into a meatloaf. Okay, so we're gonna shape these into patties, and to do that, you can do that however you want, but this is how I always do it. If I have like it roughly into a flat disc on the bottom of my bowl, I'm gonna cut it in half, cut it in half again, that's 4, and then roughly into 8. Pick it into a ball, just roll it gently, flatten it, and put it down. Like I said, these are, I cut out 8, but it looks like when I eyeball it, it's probably gonna be 6. I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna keep doing that until I do all the meat, and I'm gonna put it in the fridge. Yeah, as suspected, I got 6 out of this 1 pound of turkey, 1 carrot, and 1 zucchini. I just wanted to tell you too, like, so I put like the whole carrot and the whole zucchini into this. My kids are like used to me doing this, so they're not gonna be like sort of surprised when they see it. If your kids are kind of like meh on vegetables, you can do less of the vegetables and more of the meat. And if you're interested, then you can increase the combination. You don't have to go full on, but it's the technique that I think is helpful. So these are gonna go in the fridge, and I'll be back in a bit after I wash my hands. Okay, so our burgers are out of the fridge. They've chilled for about half an hour. Our sweet potato fries are in the oven. I just checked on them. They probably have about 10 minutes left, which is about as much time as it's going to take for me to cook these burgers. I'm going to cook these over medium heat in a non-stick pan. And I have my pan warming up a little bit. That's my first tip. Make sure your pan is warm before you put meat in it. It'll help it from sticking a little bit. I'm going to use a little bit of oil. And this is how I like to cook my burgers in February in New Jersey. If you have another method, you can just do it exactly how you like to do it if you know it's going to turn out like the way you guys want it to. And in the summer, you can grill, or if you are, a year-round griller, you can do it now. You're going to put these in the pan, and I think I'm going to be able to fit all 6 in this pan, but if not, I would cook them in batches. And they're going to cook for about 4 or 5 minutes on each side. They will be a little bit brown and a little bit crispy, and when I touch them in the middle, they'll be quite tough. So they'll feel, if you feel here, this part of your finger, your hand, that's sort of what they'll feel like. Well done, firm, but not really hard. Put these in. So here we are. We've got all 6 burgers in the pan, and they've been going for about 8 minutes. 5 minutes on one side, and I flipped them over, and they're going to go for a few more minutes on the other side. If you want to add cheese, this is a really good time to do it. And to do that, you would just slice the cheese and put it on top. And if you have a lid for your pan, you can put it over, or even like a sheet pan or an upside down metal bowl or something that can like trap the steam in to melt the cheese. This is exactly when you can do that. Okay? And then you're just gonna let them go for a little bit longer. So when I touch these, I can tell that they're done. They're almost done because they have a similar resistance to like this part of my hand, the heel of my hand. That's how you know something is close to being done. If you have a thermometer, 165 is the temperature you want to get to for meat. And then you can always do the tried and true, cut one in half and just check for yourself, get your eyes on it to make sure that you're comfortable. But all turkey and chicken does have to be cooked all the way through. There's no medium rare in a turkey burger. Once they're all done, you're going to pull them off the heat, and we're going to build our burgers. Okay, so our burgers are done. Our sweet potatoes are just finishing up. I'm going to pull them out of the oven, and then we'll build the burger. So here's our sweet potatoes. You can see that they got a little golden brown. They're not crispy because they're pretty big, and they've got a lot of sugar in them, so it's hard for sweet potatoes to get crispy. But they're going to be sweet and kind of spicy and garlicky and smoky, really delicious. So we're going to take these. I have clean hands, and I made this myself, but you can use tongs. I'm going to put a few of these on my plate. Here are our burgers. They're all golden brown and yummy. I'm just going to take one of these and then put these on here. And I'm noticing that these make pretty big burgers. So if you have little kids, you can probably get a few more burgers even out of this mixture than I did. If I was making these again with my little kids in mind, I'd probably shoot for 8 burgers, with a couple of them just being a little smaller, knowing how much my kids are willing to eat. So we built our burger here. I have the lettuce on mine and sweet potato fries next to it. I'm probably going to add some other condiments, including hot sauce, because that's one of my favorite things. But you put on your burger whatever you want, whatever you like. I hope you enjoy this month's meal, and I hope you use this technique of shredding vegetables into ground meat meals to extend the amount that you have to feed your family, and also to add a bunch of really good nutrition and flavor to some family favorites. If you make this kit and you have any feedback, you can reach out to me at Shauna@americasgrowerrow.org or to Jean at the Food Pantry. We really love your feedback, and we would love suggestions. If you have an idea or a question for next month, reach out, let us know, and we'll include it in one of the next kits. Thanks a lot. See you next month.